So you want to buy a home, but you've never done it before. You don't know where to start. The process seems daunting, or you've bought a home a long time ago and you're not quite sure what's changed from now to then. So I'm going to go ahead and do a deep dive into our buyer consultation. This is what we do the first time we meet with buyers. I'm going to go over everything as best as I can in this video. Of course, everybody's situation is a little bit different. So if we don't cover your situation specifically, go ahead and reach out to us, either myself or my lovely wife, Amanda, and we can talk about your situation a little bit further. So let's get right into it. First off is the buyer interview. That's where we sit down with you, the buyer, and we find out, what do you want? What are you looking for? Sometimes a lot of people come to the table knowing exactly what they're looking for, or this is also where they find out, let's say the husband finds out that the wife's needs don't exactly line up with theirs. So then this is where concessions start to take place. You'll take your top three from both sides, and then that's what you'll look for in the house. And during that buyer interview, we find all of this out, we flesh it out, and a lot of times we discover that buyers, there might be some underlying needs that they're not exactly telling us until we get to that interview, and then we can start to look for those things in the house as well. And for Jacksonville, the buyer interview is massively important just because there's so many different sides of town. Do you want beach? Do you want downtown? Are you looking for San Marco? Do you want to be down in Nocatee with that community and golf cart living? Do you want to be in Ponte Vedra, close to many golf courses? So all of that gets fleshed out in the buyer interview. Then we go over briefly just a loan pre-qualification. A lot of sellers with the homes in the MLS, they won't let buyers look at a home without sending a pre-qualification letter. They want to know that the people that they're opening their home to are actually serious buyers and not just looky-loos. So we talked to you about that process just briefly, just telling you, get pre-qualified, and if you don't have a lender, we have a couple that we recommend as well. But either way, just to get pre-qualified and find out what that budget is and to have that pre-qual letter meet that budget. Next up after that is we set up an MLS search. And for that MLS search, that just goes through everything that we spoke about in the buyer interview. So are you looking for a pool, no pool? Do you need a garage, townhome, condo? We set up a search specifically geared towards what you're looking for, that it gets sent to you, and then you can pick for this either daily or weekly. I mean, we can do it every 2 days as well, but usually people fall into one of two categories. They want it daily, they want to see as soon as things come on the market, or they're not in that big of a rush and they want to see everything once per week, weekly. Tell you we're filming late July of 2023, and for buyers, it's not exactly that type of market where you have to look at everything that exact day. I will say, caveat for that is, if something is crazy updated, really, really nice, that will still go fast. Now, everything else that kind of looks lived in, could use a fresh coat of paint, it's not going to sell on day one. So if you were to have it weekly, you'd still be okay. And then again, just going through, this is a brief overview of the buyer process. So after that MLS search, you find the home that you want, we write up an offer, and then we send that over to the seller's agent. In that offer, we go over how much money is going to be down for a binder, how quickly we can close, what the inspection period will be, if you want things to convey, if you saw a washer and dryer in there that you would like to convey, if you saw bar stools, this happens a lot. You saw bar stools that work perfectly around the kitchen, that's that point in time as well where we would go ahead and do that. So after negotiations, after we go back and forth, the offer gets accepted. At that point in time, we are under contract, and then Amanda and I, further along in this buyer process, we would tell you guys every timeline that you would need to know while under contract. First of which would be getting inspections and then going from there. So again, quick overview of the whole entire process. The rest of this video is going to be the meat and potatoes about basically going through everything that I just mentioned, but in much greater detail. This is going to be a long and boring video for those of you that are not trying to buy a home right now, but for those of you that are looking to buy, hopefully you can glean some information here that you could find useful, specifically and especially for Jacksonville, Florida. So you're under contract, and now there's a timeline of a lot of things that need to happen. First of which is inspections. We will get the inspections done within the first few days of being under contract, because on most contracts, especially for our NEFAR contract, 10 days is the default for inspection period. So we want to get the inspections done on the early end so that we can find out if there's any problems, and then we can begin negotiations on repairs, because in that 10-day window, that is when you can get your binder back without any repercussions. You could change your mind, or you could just see the inspection report, not even bother with negotiations, and then you can just say, this is not the house for me, I just want my binder back. And the sellers have to give it back and no questions asked. And that would be done through an attorney's office, a title company. After the inspection negotiations happen and things are getting repaired, then we would start talking about getting homeowners insurance for the house, getting the quotes to see what it looks like, because your lender is going to need that anyway for when they're putting together their quote for you for how much you're going to pay monthly. Once we get much, much closer to the closing date, then we'll put on your calendar to make sure you transfer utilities. Usually we ask you to do it a day before the closing date. We've seen some day of turn off and turn ons where the power is not there for that day. Just utility company doesn't turn it around as quickly as we'd like them to. So we usually ask you to cut it on a day early, just to make sure that the power does not get lost, and to ensure you have power for the next step, which is your final walkthrough. That usually happens the night before or the morning of your closing. And you do not want to lose power for the close or for the final walkthrough. You want to have power for that final walkthrough so you can make sure everything is functioning just when you walked through the home the first time and fell in love with it. So we touched on earlier that new buyer interview, where we go over the features and what you're looking for in a home. And we have that section. We have a buyer's guide that we give all of our buyers, and we have a section in that guide devoted to that, where you can talk about your must-haves, your non-negotiables, what school districts you're looking for. Are there features of the home that need to be pet friendly? How many bedrooms, how many bathrooms? Is it going to be a big yard for Fido? All of those things is covered in our buyer's guide. Also in the buyer's guide, we had some house hunting tips, and I'll go over a few of those with you now. First one is investigate. Drive around those neighborhoods where you find those homes that you like, especially at different times of the day. Don't go just once. I would go late at night to drive around, get a feel for the neighborhood. Go during rush hour, see what it's like in the morning or in the evening, or both, for both of those rush hours. And pop in, and that's it. Yeah, that's good. Second is keep an open mind. Finding your dream home isn't always an easy task. So again, going back to that priorities list, let's find, you're not going to be able to check off every single box, but we want to check off most of those boxes. So keep an open mind on some of those homes that you see. And then take pictures and notes. After we begin to see a lot of properties, they're going to start to blur together. And one that you think has the Jack and Jill bathroom might have been the third that you saw that day instead of the first one that you were thinking about. So take pictures, take notes. We give you an MLS sheet on every single property that we see, and that's an easy spot for you to write a couple notes, things you like, things you don't like, and then crumple up and throw away the ones that are immediately no-goes. And if you walk up to a house and you can already tell from the neighborhood that you're not going to like this house, you are not going to hurt mine or Amanda's feelings if we just turn around and say, nope, this is not the house for me. Like, we don't even need to waste our time walking in the house. We can tell we don't like the neighborhood. We don't like that it's off of this busy road, whatever the reason may be. It happens. And then next up is be ready to make an offer. So what we don't want to happen is some people tell us, oh, well, we're not in a rush. And we go looking at houses. So we look at a couple of houses, and then all of a sudden they see the house that it's their dream home. This is the one that they want. Well, they weren't expecting that. So they needed to sell their home before they could buy this home. And they haven't even gotten their home ready to sell. And so we've seen it a couple of times. And so we just encourage people to have a game plan if that dream home were to pop up. Do you need to sell your home to make it contingent to buy the next one? Do you want to sell yours and get a rent back from the buyers of the home? That's still happening. It's less prominent than it was right during the middle of COVID, but that's still happening from time to time. So basically, just have a game plan if you were to go see that home. And again, speak with a lender as well. We have a couple we can refer to you, but there's hundreds out there. It's important to speak to the lender so you can get that pre-qualification letter, so that you at least know what you're qualified for. We also have a page in our buyer's guide talking about making an offer. You want to make it appealing. You don't want to lowball too far low. However, I mean, that's very situation dependent. If the home's been sitting on the market for 90 days without a price drop, they might call for a lowball offer just to see what the seller does at that point. But that's all negotiable, and negotiations is my favorite part of the job. I come from the sales industry. I have a sales background. That's all that I've done. So that is my favorite part, and I will certainly help you and advise you as best as I can in that negotiation part. Then we talk deeper about inspections, what we're looking for, the big ticket items. The inspector is going to come back with a 70-page report stating everything that's wrong with the home. Well, that's because you paid for the inspector, so he's doing his job by pointing out everything that's wrong with the home. Now, if you go to a seller and say, this quarter round is not all the way around this bedroom, we demand that get replaced before buying. I mean, that's too small of an issue. But there's a hole in the roof. We need to talk about a re-roof before we're even going to close on this house, because not only does a homeowner not want to inherit that problem, they're not going to be able to get, you, the buyer, not going to be able to get insurance on the home with a hole in the roof. So we ask people to, with this 70-page report, focus on the big things. Those are the items that we ask for, negotiate for, and then we move forward from there. So your lender will request an appraiser to come out to the home. All the appraisers in Florida are independent from lenders. The lenders have a pool that they can choose from, but they don't actually have direct contact with the appraiser. There's just like an arm's length distance between them to keep everything on the up and up. Just plain and simple, a home needs to appraise in order for the lender to give you that loan amount. So if you're buying a home at 380 and your loan amount is 360, but the home appraises at 350, we need to figure out how to make up that $10,000 disparity between the 350 and the 360. A lot of times buyers and sellers will come together and split it halfway, or in negotiations, if the seller said, no, I gave away too much during that, they have to come up all the way or 2/3. I mean, Amanda and I have seen it play out several different ways. Also, when we're running comps for a home for you before we even put in an offer, we're fairly confident we know where it will appraise at. We do get surprised from time to time, especially on condos, but we do our research ahead of time to make sure that we're not running into appraisal issues. Then homeowners insurance. So I touched on a hole in the roof as far as not getting insurance and needing to negotiate on an inspection. Other items that come into play for that for homeowners insurance is a water heater too old? Is the HVAC too old? Is the electrical not too old, but there's certain types, knob and tube, there's certain panels, a Florida Pacific panel, insurance companies won't insure, or you'll be paying much, much higher insurance. Also, while we're under contract, usually we try and find out from the seller if the home is in a flood zone, but sometimes the floodplain changes and that seller never needed flood insurance, and it doesn't come up until the lender has to find it. So we try and figure out if the home needs flood insurance as well, which is a separate policy from your homeowner's insurance. However, if you are getting a loan, you can get that flood insurance wrapped up into your loan amount, so you're paying it on a 12-month basis instead of just paying it up front every year. And then title insurance. We don't go too much into this because every seller's agent uses a title company which will get the title insurance and make sure that they're handing over clean and clear title to the new buyer. And as buyers, we don't even choose that option. The seller chooses the title company. If you were to list with us, we use one here in town, which I'll probably do a deep dive on another video, and they're great. And then once we get close to your closing date, you will get from the lender a closing disclosure. This will be at least 3 days before closing. It'll list out all the credits and debits that the buyer will have to pay. It'll also list out all the credits and debits that the seller has to pay. And it covers everything from title fees to homeowners insurance to obviously the cost of the home, our commissions. Everything's listed out in plain English. And if there's any discrepancies, then that's the moment that we take care of that. And then, of course, we'll remind you to transfer your utilities a day before closing. And then right around this time, we would get the clear to close from the lender as well. And that means everything is great, and we're going to go straight to the closing table in a few days. And then that final walkthrough that I mentioned will either be the night before or the morning of your closing. Just walk through the house, make sure nothing has changed. There's not a giant hole in the kitchen now. Just make sure it's exactly how you saw it when you first fell in love with the home. And then on closing day, we'll go to the title company. I'll be there with you. You will sign all the paperwork, and then I will hand you the keys to the home, garage clickers, mailbox key, anything I would have gotten along the way, gate code or gate scanning pass. You get everything to the home then and there, and then we will mark a reminder on our calendar for you to apply for homestead here in the state of Florida, so that your taxes don't go up by more than 3% each year. And then congratulations, you've closed on your home. So that was your buying guide with the Creech Crew here in Jacksonville, Florida. If you have any other questions or want to set up a more personal buying guide experience, feel free to reach out to me here and we can talk more about the whole process. I'm Alex Creech with the Creech Crew, closing deals in cleats, and I'll see you next time.